All right, so today we are going to do lesson 3.3a, and you are going to need your Desmos pulled up on your Chromebook to do this lesson. It'd be a lot easier if you have that versus a calculator. First of all, we have talked about minimums before and maximums before. The only difference is that there's a difference, I guess, between a local minimum versus an absolute minimum. A local minimum would be all low points on a graph. And the absolute minimum would be the lowest point on the graph. And that would be the same thing for a maximum. A local maximum would be all high points on a graph. And the absolute maximum would be the highest point on a graph. Okay, so now we definitely need our Desmos pulled up. I'm going to have to pull mine up on my phone. Where is it? There it is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type this equation into Desmos. So y equals x to the, oops, I forgot a negative. Let's go back. Negative x to the third power plus 2x squared plus 1. Okay, so what I probably want to do is sketch that on my paper. So the graph looked something like this. All right, and I don't really need to do number 1 because I'm asking you how to do this. If I was having you do the graphing calculator to find the answers, then we would have to fill those out. We're just doing Desmos. So we're going to find all this information. So it looks like this would be a maximum, this would be a minimum, and that would be a 0. So I'm going to find those things looking at my graph. And all I have to do is click on them. There's my maximum. So I'd write that down as an ordered pair. That's my minimum. And that is my 0. So I would just write down those answers for the minimum, maximum, and the 0. Okay, so again, the minimum we said was 0, 1. The maximum, which was here, that point was 1.333, and then 2.185. And then the 0, or the x-intercept, that was 2.206, 0. Okay, let's move on to the next page here. All right, we'll talk about 7 and 8 in a second. That's the new stuff. I'm not going to answer the how questions. Let's do 10 and 12. Now, we have done this before. The only new thing, I guess, would be 7 and 8. So if you recall from, I think it was chapter 1, a number in parentheses is the x value, and the number that's not in parentheses, that's the y value. So what we're going to have to do is go back to our Desmos calculator, and I'm going to type in x equals 2. in the second box. So I'll go right here, type in x equals 2, and then I'm going to see where they intersect. Looks like they intersect right there at 2, 1. Remember, the x value has to be 2, so I know that's the point because the x value is 2. So when x is 2, y is 1. So that would be my answer. All right, this one, I'm going to type in y equals 2 into the second box. So I'm going to go to here, get rid of that, type in y equals 2. This time they intersect in 2 places, and I'm trying to find the point. Oh, they actually intersect in 3 places, actually. So I'm going to find the point where the y value is 2 this time. Looks like those 3 are my answers because they all have a y value of 2. So all 3 of those would be my answer to number 12 here. So the first one was negative 0.618, 2. The next one was 1, 2. And the third one was 1.6182. All right, let's go back up to the new ones, 8, 7, and 8. We haven't talked about this before. Let's talk about those. So I'm going to redraw the graph that we got, which again looked like this. Okay, when you find the positive and negative intervals, you only care about the x-intercept, which is right here, which we said was 2.206. That's what the 0 was if I look back on number 6. Okay, the positive interval, that is where our graph is above the x-axis. And the negative interval is where our graph is below the x-axis. So if I look, my graph is above the x-axis right here. To the left of the 0, to the left of it. It's below the x-axis right here, gradually going to the right. It's either going to be to the left or to the right. This one's to the left of it, and this one, it looks like it just keeps going down straight, but I kind of exaggerated that. It's actually to the right. So this would be on the left, and this would be on the right. So here's how you would write the answer. If it's on the left, you're going to start with negative infinity, and then it stops at 0, which is 2.206. If it's on the right, you're going to start with the 0, and it's going to go to infinity. All right, so that is the new stuff. This next example is just like the one we just did, except I kind of want to do the positive and negative intervals on this one. So let's go ahead and go to our Desmos calculator, get rid of all this stuff here. Let's go ahead and type in this equation. So we got y equals x to the 4th minus 5x squared minus 1. All right, looks like I'm going to have to zoom a little bit. There we go, looks like a W. Okay, so all I want to do for this example is find the positive and negative intervals. So I'm going to have to turn the page here. Okay, in order for me to find the positive and negative intervals, I'm going to have to find the zeros first. Okay, and let me sketch again what I had here. Let's see, it looks like that. All right, so okay, so it looks like my graph has 2 zeros. It has one here and it has one here. So first I want to find those. Okay, so I have one at negative 2.279 and then positive 2.279. Okay, now I don't need this anymore. I just needed that to find the zeros. Okay, so I'm done with that. Okay, the positive interval. I'm looking for where the graph is above the x-axis. So it's here to the left. I kind of exaggerated. It's not really going straight up. And this one's to the right of it. So this one's on the left and this one's on the right. So I'm going to have 2 answers for this one. So if it's on the left, you're going to start with negative infinity and you're going to stop at whatever the 0 is. Okay, now we have another answer. If it's on the right, you start with a 0 and then you end with positive infinity. Okay, now the negative interval, this one's slightly different because it's not on the left or on the right, it's in between. If it's in between, you're not going to have any infinities. It's just going to be in between these 2 numbers. So you just write down the first number that you see on the left first, and whatever number's on the right, you write that down second. Alrighty, so that is how you do the positive and negative intervals. Everything else is pretty much a review.